My name is Senator Mark Herring, and it is my privilege to welcome all of you to the Governor's Town Hall on Transportation and also to introduce Governor Kaine. This is the first day, I think, after about 4 or 5 really hot days, and we got a break from the heat, and it means a lot that you all are here. Transportation is very critical for our area's continued economic vitality and the quality of life we enjoy. I'd like to thank all of you for coming out tonight. I'd also like to take the opportunity to thank the Governor for his continued strong leadership in the transportation area. I can't tell you how important it has been to have someone like Governor Kaine, who has continued to show an understanding of the significant transportation challenges that our area faces. Not just an understanding of those challenges, but a willingness to continue to work on those problems and try and get some solutions. On some specific transportation projects, I'm sure all of us are aware of the good work that he has done over particularly the last 6 months in keeping Dulles Rail moving forward, but he's also been extremely helpful in making sure that the construction of the overpasses on Route 28 continue to move forward. He and his office has been very helpful to expedite the Route 50 road widening project, provide some additional funding for Battlefield Parkway when the town needed it to get that moving forward. And so those are the kinds of things that it really makes a huge difference to have a governor who understands the significance of the challenges we face and willingness to do something about it. And of course, we still face a lot ahead of us. Route 7, 659 interchange, Wax Pool, 606, not to mention the bypass and significantly rising transit needs, and the list goes on. And the governor has continued to show leadership, not just in this region, but the state as a whole. He has called the General Assembly back into special session beginning June 23rd to address the transportation needs of the Commonwealth. He has also been, I think, a leader in putting forward a transportation plan for the General Assembly to consider a month or a month and a half in advance of that special session. He has shown a willingness to be open to discussion, to new ideas, changes, even new plans. And I think that kind of approach from the governor is very refreshing. It's very helpful to try and get some solutions on the table. I'd like to mention that there are also a lot of local elected officials here from the town of Leesburg, from the town of Herndon, and from Loudoun County. And I'm very grateful that all of you have come tonight. So, the governor's got a tight schedule, so I don't want to take any more time. Thank you all very much for coming, and please welcome His Excellency, the Governor of Virginia.
And it's great to be here with you. I want to thank Mark Herring for that very generous introduction. Mark is an old friend of mine, and he's somebody who served well in local government here, and now is a great part of the state senate. Mark, I'm really happy you're here. And to so many from local government who are here as well. Thank you for coming out tonight. And all of you. You guys are all busy. You could be doing a lot of things. The fact that you're here tonight is important because it means you recognize the importance of this issue. A difficult one. Nothing important in life is easy. Trying to make tough decisions is in fact tough, and this has proven one of the most vexing and difficult we've had as a state. But it's time for us to step up, look at ourselves in the mirror, and face some realities and make some hard decisions. As Mark said, I rolled out a transportation plan on May 13th, called the legislature back in June 23. I put a plan on the table because I wanted everybody to take a look, see if they thought they could do better. It's hard to talk about transportation in the abstract, so without a plan on the table, what would we focus on? But this plan is one that I'm going to spend some time talking to you about. This is the 18th town hall meeting that I've done since the legislature adjourned in March. I did 10, including one here in Loudoun, that were kind of on any issue, including transportation. This is the 8th that I've done since that set of 10 that was purely about transportation and my proposal. 2 bits of housekeeping you heard when you came in. I'm going to talk for 20-25 minutes and take questions. Some of you might not get your question answered because my voice might run out before your hand tires. And if I am not able to answer your question, then there is a constituent service office that's located right here, and they are very happy to deal with you and answer your question. And some of you might also have a question you really just don't ask in front of the group. Again, you can get specific help there. And we have the Treasury also. The Treasury is right in the back. The unclaimed property department of the Treasury, the state might be holding money for you. 1 in 7 Virginians, the state is holding money for you. When I got elected governor, I went to the Treasury to say hi to people, and they said, "Governor, do you have unclaimed property?" I said, "I don't even know what that is." They said, "Well, we'll check and see." The state was holding $700 from me and had that for years. Some kind of a lawsuit settlement that never found its way to me. And it was right before Christmas, folks. So 1 in 7 of you will leave happy if you go to this table. I should have said that before the presentation, there was some rushes, but anyway, those are both ways you can get a little assistance. So, transportation and the challenge that we have. We've got a PowerPoint up, and I'll just kind of walk through. First, let me talk about needs. I don't need to tell you about the needs here. You know that you need to tell me about them. But let me give you kind of a statewide issue and issues we're dealing with statewide. First, maintenance. We have the 3rd largest state-maintained road system in the United States, and it is growing. Every time a local government approves a new subdivision with new roads, the default has been that when it opens, the state takes over maintenance. It's about 250 miles a year of growth onto the existing system. So it's the 3rd largest, it's growing, it's aging. Aging infrastructure has more maintenance needs and repairs. And 4th, maintenance costs, like all construction costs, are going up. So there is a maintenance challenge that we have. Let me tell you for a minute about the aging, just to give you a sense of this. One of the things we do is we don't just maintain roads, we maintain bridges. How many bridges do you think we have in Virginia to maintain? 1,000? 5,000? 10? 20,000? 20,000. The state maintains 20,000 bridges. Now, many of them you probably wouldn't even know it was a bridge. You know, small creeks or culverts or things, but it is a structural bridge. The average age of those 20,000 bridges is 47 years old. Once bridges get to be about 50, a bridge or a tunnel, you need to do some work on them to make sure that they are safe. Or you need to at least assess them to determine if they're unsafe and make some adjustments. 1,700 of the 20,000 bridges in Virginia are structurally deficient, meaning they were built at a time for vehicles that were of different weights. So the vehicles of today, it was never contemplated that they would carry this. So what do we do with the structurally deficient bridge? It doesn't mean that it's going to collapse tomorrow, but it means that, okay, there's a problem. We have to inspect them more regularly. We often put weight limits on the bridges, and then we usually have to start planning to replace them. We had an incident last week, coincidentally, on a day I was doing a transportation town hall meeting in Radford. A state-maintained bridge in Giles County collapsed. 15 miles from where I was doing the town hall meeting. The bridge was built in 1932. Small bridge, only serving 50 vehicles a day. Weight limit posted, 8 tons. A guy with a cement truck drove over. Life is a matter of inches. It was only 16 tons in that truck. He just tried to sneak over, and the bridge collapsed. It collapsed right as we were building the bridge right next to it. There's a VDOT guy on the construction crew as he collapsed. He was not badly hurt. But it just gives you a sense of 20,000 bridges, many of them, average age 47. There's a maintenance cost. So, growing, aging, one of the largest in America, increased maintenance costs. The maintenance needs of our system, as they increase, they reduce funding that is available for needed improvements. Let me tell you just quickly about that. The legislature kind of has put the revenues for transportation into 2 funds. There's a maintenance fund and a construction fund. Obviously, we want to maintain first. Beginning in the early 2000s, when Governor Gilmore was governor, it got to the point where there wasn't enough money in the maintenance fund to maintain the system. So the legislature gave the governor the permission to go into the construction fund and take construction money out to maintain. That, what we call a maintenance deficit, has grown every year. The year that starts July 1 of this year, July 1 to June 30, the maintenance deficit will be $375 million. We go into the construction account. We take money out to the tune of $375. It will rise to $575 million by 2014. What does that mean? Well, it means first, it's not the best way to maintain. Not having the reliable money and having to cobble together, gosh, we're going to this account and take some money out for maintenance. That's not the best way to run a maintenance program. But what it really means is anything that was in that construction account that we were going to use to, build some significant improvement for people is being drained. And so, for example, In this next year, we're taking $375 out of the construction account. 70 to 80 of that is coming out of the Northern Virginia district for Northern Virginia projects that were supposed to be done that aren't going to get done because we need to use it for maintenance. So that's what I mean by reduces available funding. This chart will show you what I mean by this. You'll see gray bars and red bars. Going back to 1988, the red bar is construction money and the gray bar is maintenance money. In 1988, we were doing more construction and major improvements. Some things are kind of on the line between is it just an improvement or is it construction? If it's a significant maintenance, it tends to come out of the construction account. But we were doing more construction than maintenance in '88. But as you come to today, fiscal year 08, the maintenance costs are going up. We're doing more maintenance than construction. And if we don't do anything, this growing maintenance deficit just basically eats up all the construction money. By 2019, we'll have less than $500 million statewide for construction, while the maintenance costs will be nearly $2.5 million. That's the direction we're going. Maintenance only and nothing new to serve this growing population of Virginia. And it is a growing population because people want to live here. We're doing some things right. And we continue to grow as a state. People come. Statewide needs maintenance in other ways. Safety. Last year, over 1,000 people died on the roads of Virginia. First time that had happened in some time. Since before we really had tough drunk driving laws. The numbers are down, but they're creeping back up. Now, a lot of people are in accidents because they don't drive right. But the safety of the roads has an impact on this. One day, a couple weeks ago, I was in Charlottesville, and a young lady who was just about to graduate from Albemarle High School was in a serious accident on I-29, on Route 29. A truck hit her car and killed her. And it was in an intersection that has been perennially slated for safety improvements because there's vision problems with the way the intersection sets up. This truck driver missed the light, ran into her and killed her. That's not all those 1,000 deaths. I don't mean to suggest that it is, but we all know that road conditions do have an impact upon safety. In Northern Virginia and Hampton Roads, where there's congestion, there's an additional safety problem that I know you're aware of, and it's harder to get ambulances and emergency vehicles to public safety emergencies. I used to be on the ambulance authority when I was mayor of Richmond, the city of Richmond. I was stunned when I learned the statistics about what a 1-minute difference makes in getting an ambulance to somebody who's experiencing a cardiac incident. 1 minute makes a difference. And so the more congestion you have, blocking emergency vehicles or others, or just making it variable as to whether you'll get there or not, that is a safety concern. So we've got to have a way to solve this maintenance deficit, to adequately maintain our roads, so that we can then keep money over on the construction side to continue to do what we need to do to mitigate congestion, provide economic development. Let me show you what's happening in the state transportation budget. We have a Commonwealth Transportation Board, and they every year prepare a 6-year plan, and then the next year they'll just roll forward 1 year. So they're always looking out 6 years and trying to plan what we can do with it. In April of this year, our CTB took a look at the existing 6-year plan, and here's what they did with it. It's all in red. They reduced it by $1.1 billion over the next 6 years. At a time, again, where we're growing, where construction costs are going up, the 6-year plan for maintenance and transportation has just been reduced by $1.1 billion. Why? Well, partly because the legislature did take a good step last year in trying to find a compromise transportation solution, but much of the solution was either struck down by the Virginia Supreme Court or repealed by the legislature this year for valid reasons. But revenues that we just voted on a year ago that we wanted to put into solving problems in Northern Virginia, Hampton Roads, and elsewhere have either been repealed or struck down. Second, as gas prices go up, people drive a little bit less, and that produces less gas tax revenue. So that's also a reason you see these numbers going down. But this is a huge challenge for us. If we have a problem, and we are a growing state, we're not going to be able to keep our economy strong by having a degrading infrastructure, especially in these parts of the state where there is significant transportation need. So that is a challenge we're facing right now. Let me talk about the least popular topic. I'm going to talk about taxes in Virginia. I'm going to spend a couple of minutes on this because this is, I think, fundamentally a question ultimately about are we willing to invest in what we say we care about? That's what this is really about. We say there's a transportation problem, okay? Are we willing to invest in it, or do we think there's kind of a free lunch or Jack's Magic Beans that's going to solve this for us? So let's talk about taxes. We're fifth in the nation in per capita income. There's some different ways to measure this. Governing Magazine just did a survey and listed us as fifth. I've seen other measurements that have us sixth or seventh, but we're in the top 10 in every survey of this I've seen in the last few years. That doesn't mean everybody's doing well. That doesn't mean every region is doing well. But relative to other states, we've got a good per capita income. 12th highest population. We're 32nd in the nation in state and local tax burden. We're 39th in the nation in state and local taxes as a percentage of income. We're 36th in the nation in state and local spending as a percentage of income. So we are a state, on average, with a high median income, and on average with low taxation and spending. That's great. I want to be there. You know, during the time I've been governor, we got rid of the estate tax, and we took 1/10 of working Virginians off the income tax rolls. In 06, the estate tax. In 07, we took 140,000 Virginians off the income tax rolls. So I like finding ways to give tax relief. I did it in local government. I like to do it in state government. But if you have a need that you need to invest in, I also am a believer in facing that need squarely and trying to invest. Here's where we are kind of bottom line. We rank near the bottom when it comes to taxes that are devoted to transportation. And let me show you a couple of examples. Most states use, I've got 2 slides to exemplify 3 points. Anyway, I'll try to do my best. Most states use 3 basic taxes to fund transportation. This is common across states. There's some other bits and pieces of revenues here and there, but most use 3 basic ones. The sales tax on autos, the gasoline tax, the sales tax on autos, the general sales tax, and the gasoline tax. Those are the big 3 for all states, including Virginia. So I'm going to show you where we are in all 3 of those. Sales tax on autos. If you buy this, right, this is a 5% sales tax. A big pen, a computer, parachutes, 5% sales tax. That's the general sales tax on Virginia, except on food and medicine. Sales tax on autos in Virginia is 3%. We set it at 2% less than the general sales tax. You'll see that the national average up there is almost 4.6%. So we set our sales tax on autos 2% below the sales tax on everything else, 1.6% below the national average. What if we just set it at the national average? What would we have for transportation? We'd have another probably $330, $340 million a year for transportation if we just set this tax at the national average. Okay? And you'll see that there's the states in blue are the ones that are low. We're in the bottom 10 in the nation in the sales tax on autos. The next slide, retail sales and use tax. This is the general sales tax. This is this 5%. You'll see that we're in the bottom 6 or 7 states in the country on sales tax. The U.S. average, you have a hard time seeing it up there on the slide, U.S. average is about 6%, we're at 5%. So we set the sales tax lower than other states. What if we set the sales tax just at the national average at 6%? That's another $1.1 billion a year that we would have if we had a sales tax at the national average. The third one, the slide's not really working, so let me tell you about it. It's the gas tax. Yeah, don't switch yet, because this slide isn't working. The gas tax is the big one. This is the one that we all rely on the heaviest. Both the federal government has a uniform across the country and each state. The average gas tax in America by state, the state average, is about 26 cents. In Virginia, it's 17.5 cents a gallon. So we set our gas tax 8.5 cents below the national average. What would it mean if we just had a gas tax equal to the national average? That's about $400 to $500 million a year. So the quick message of this is, on the big 3 that every state uses for transportation, we basically set sales tax $1 billion less than the national average, auto title $300 million less than the national average, and the gas tax $400 to $500 million less than the national average. About $1.8 billion less than if we were just average. Now again, I like being low. I like being below average. The plan I'm going to suggest at the end would still leave us far below average. But there is a mathematical reality here, and we know what it is. If we want a good system, we've got to be willing to pay for it. You can have an A system on an A revenue stream. You can have a C system on a C revenue stream. You can't have an A system on a C revenue stream. The laws of math won't let you do it. The final slide shows how it all comes together. Highway spending is a percentage of personal income. The blue states are the ones where it's very low. The U.S. average is about 1.29% of all income goes to transportation. In Virginia, it's 1.1%. We're one of the lowest in the nation. That's why we've got so much of the challenge that we have, is that we say there's a problem, and we don't just say it, there is a problem. We believe there's a problem. We experience the problem. But we have set all of the transportation revenue sources significantly below the national average, but we want it to be great. It's just not going to happen if we're not going to invest. Now, let me say this. It's not all about money. I'm going to get to my plan quick and tell you about the money piece, but let me acknowledge a couple things that are important. It's not just about taxes and fees. First, we've got to do a better and better job of making our land use decisions and our transportation decisions really work hand in glove. These local officials here, that's an amen line for these guys. They know this. They've been telling the state this for years. Virginia set up a system 80 years ago where the local governments make land use decisions and the state does the transportation planning. And that was a problem. It wasn't a problem when we were a rural state, but we're 80% urban and suburban now. So it's time that the land use and transportation plans be put better together. And so there's a whole series of things that the legislature, working well over the last couple of years, has done to enable us to tackle this, give more tools to local governments, find better planning mechanisms. Today I did an executive order on something called a community development subcabinet, which will target expenditures of state dollars and try to make sure that we always do it in ways that will minimize congestion rather than maximize it. So there's much that has been done and still that can be done in this particular area. That's not about money, it's about smart planning. Second, we've got to make sure we use the money that we have. And this has been a sore spot with a lot of Virginians, and with reason. When Governor Warner was elected governor in 2002, he commissioned a study of what percentage of VDOT projects, our state road projects, can we do on time and on budget. And what he found was pretty embarrassing. He found that VDOT could produce a project on time about 20% of the time, on budget about 50% of the time. And that wasn't good enough. By a long shot, citizens had every right to feel like, wait a minute, what's going on here? Well, for 6 years we've worked pretty hard on this. And look, we should wake up every day to do better and look for ways to do better. But right now, VDOT's on time, on budget, both are over 85%. And that's a very, very positive improvement. And in that 6 years, we have reduced the size of the VDOT workforce by 2,000 people. Because we wanted the monies to go to transportation, not salaries. So we've tried to get leaner and meaner on the personnel side, and we've gotten more efficient as we've done it. Is there more we can do? Absolutely. Absolutely. We get, just like in your family, just like in any business, you've got to wake up every day and try to be better than you were yesterday. There is more, but we've come a long way on the accountability side. Finally, there is something, again, this is about money, but not about taxes. There are ways you can finance roads and other infrastructure other than taxes. Tolls would be an example. And we call them public-private partnerships or concessions. It usually means tolls. There are a couple of other ways to do it other than tolls, but usually means tolls. Virginia is one of the leaders in the nation in using these public-private partnerships to finance roads. You guys are well aware this year with the Dulles Greenway, with the forthcoming work on rail to Dulles. We just are doing congestion pricing on the Beltway and on I-95 down to Fredericksburg, hot lanes that we're constructing, working with public-private partnerships. This is a map of Virginia. All these projects are projects in regions of the state that are currently either underway or planned where we're going to use tolls instead of just relying on taxes and other things to fund infrastructure. I believe that this is definitely a part of the solution. It doesn't help you much on maintenance. Usually people don't want to pay tolls for something they've been driving on for free forever and put a big toll booth in their way. That doesn't go over too well. But for new infrastructure, something that nobody had a chance to drive on before, people will pay a toll for that. And we need to, and so that's part of the solution. All right, well, let me jump in now and tell you the plan that I proposed to the legislature. It's got 3 pieces, having kind of gone through the basics, and here's where we are. And the pieces are safety first, regional relief, and transportation change. Safety first is about this maintenance problem I talked to you about. Maintaining our roads to reduce accidents, reduce road deaths, replacing and repairing these aging bridges. One issue that is a particular torque in Hampton Roads, not so much for Nova, although there's a different issue in Nova that is kind of similar, is we know in Hampton Roads we're going to have a hurricane there. It might be this season, it might be 20 seasons from now. But we know we're going to have it. We know we're going to have it. We don't have the road infrastructure to evacuate Hampton Roads as we need to be able to do. There are 700,000 people. You have the 1.6 million in Hampton Roads who are very vulnerable to storm surges. To evacuate 700,000 people out of Hampton Roads, if everything works exactly right, it takes about 40 hours. And that's not people having a flat tire or running out of gas and blocking the people behind you. That's everything working just right. That's just too long. It's too long, and we would lose people that we know we can protect if we plan for better infrastructure. So part of the plan in Hampton Roads is to deal with this evacuation issue. So safety first. What is my proposal to deal with this maintenance deficit? Two things. One, I propose to increase the annual vehicle registration that we pay in Virginia by $10 for however many vehicles anybody has. And second, I propose to increase the sales tax on autos. Remember that slide up there, we're 1.6% below the national average. To increase it from 3% to 4%. Still below the national average, still below the sales tax on everything else. If we do those two things, and we direct that money purely into the maintenance fund, it fills the maintenance deficit. So that we have enough money to maintain what we have, and we don't have to go steal money out of the construction fund to have a basic level of safety. Why did I pick those two revenue sources, the $10 and the auto title? I picked them because the legislature last year passed a transportation bill and voted overwhelmingly in Northern Virginia and Hampton Roads to increase vehicle registration by $10 and auto title tax by 1%. That was part of the regional plan that got struck down, but that was something that the legislature voted for. So, you know, I might have drafted it differently if I was just doing it, but I want to show them listening. That was a source that the House bill indicated that they liked, so I put that in mind. What does this do to the maintenance deficit? Next slide. Basically, that red line was the maintenance deficit growing from an earlier slide to nearly $600 million by 2014. We would be positive at least through 2014. In 2014, we might come a little bit negative again, but if we do, we'll be $50 million rather than $600 million. We would have a little surplus along the way that we can use to deal with that. So that's the first piece. Maintenance first. Let's make sure we have enough to maintain this growing, aging system as construction costs are going up. That's piece one. Piece two is regional relief. Again, I don't need to talk to you about the need, but just a couple of stats. In Northern Virginia, 81% of folks are trapped in congestion as they drive to work. You know, some probably drive half a block and they're not in congestion, but 81% are trapped in some congestion. And the average is, for the driver in Northern Virginia, the average is a 2-week vacation. A 2-week vacation. Now, I don't know, well, I'm sure you guys value your vacation time, everybody, as much as I value mine. It's hard to get the vacation that we're entitled to. That you spend literally 2 weeks of your life in congestion in Northern Virginia is intense. And Hampton Roads, they've costed it out. It's not as severe in Hampton Roads, but it is pretty intense. The cost of it in lost time and fuel costs is $467 million. It's no good to be sitting in a traffic jam under any conditions. Sitting in a traffic jam at $4 a gallon, wow, that is no fun. That is no fun. So the two regions of the state need some particular relief for the regions. When I got to be governor, I put in a transportation plan. It was just a statewide plan. Let's do this at the state level and send money back based on allocation formula. But legislators in Nova and Hampton Roads said, Governor, you know, we like you and all, but we're not sure that if we do this and the money goes to Richmond, we're going to be getting back what we ought to. So we would rather have a regional plan where we could raise money in the region and keep it in the region and plan for our own projects and do the projects that we think we ought to do, not what somebody in Richmond tells us we should do. And so this regional improvement plan for Nova and Hampton Roads is based upon me listening to the legislators saying we've got to have the ability to help fund, solve, plan our own problems without Richmond tinkering around with what the projects are. So what's my proposal to do this? Well, last year the legislature passed these two regional plans, a variety of taxes and fees. In Northern Virginia they produced about $300 million a year, Hampton Roads $200 million a year. Raise it here, keep it here, use it here. The Supreme Court struck down this mechanism in late February, and so I wanted to make sure I would fix this. Just as the legislature voted for this last year, can we put revenue back into this region in the way the legislature wanted? My proposal is a 1% sales tax in Northern Virginia and Hampton Roads that would go for raise it here, keep it here. It would raise $300+ million in Nova, $200+ million in Hampton Roads, replace the revenues that were lost when the court acted last year. The sales taxes in the surrounding jurisdictions are not lower, so it wouldn't push commerce over to Maryland, for example, or over to North Carolina.
You mean less
Yeah. From 5 to 6. Yeah, from 5 to 6. Thank you for the correction. So That would be the proposal, and you would raise it here and keep it in. Why did I propose the 1% in both the regions? It won't surprise you to know, because you probably follow us, the challenging place in finding a solution to get everybody together is in working with the House, who, they're very diligent about, we don't want to increase taxes if we don't need to. The House members in Northern Virginia and Hampton Roads have been talking about a 1% sales tax package, and I've been listening to them. They haven't voted to do it, they haven't all said they're going to do it, but they talked about it as a simple solution to try to find a way to come up with transportation revenue. So that's the second step. And the final step is this, transportation change. Part of the answer is not just doing what we've always been doing and trying to keep up with inflation or do more, but part of the answer, I think, is obviously we've got to do some things differently, even including the transportation modes that we use. For example, Virginia has not been a big investor in public transit. Now, the Northern Virginia Regional Plan I talked about earlier, a lot of that money would go into VRE and Metro. And so Northern Virginia, you've had pretty good public transit compared to the rest of the state. But there's even more we need to do. At $4 a gallon, whether it's bus rapid transit, Metro, VRE, carpool, ride sharing, telework, reverse incentives for reverse commuting, there's a whole series of things that we need to do to just change the paradigm about the way we use transportation, both for saving money, for environmental reasons, to ease congestion, etc. So what I propose as the third piece of my plan is what I just call the Transportation Change Fund. Let's have some money that we invest in different ways to really change the paradigm. What I would propose to do, I'll tell you how I would fund it, and then I'll tell you what I do with it. Last year, the legislature, again, as part of this plan that was struck down, voted overwhelmingly for a grantor's tax. When a piece of property is sold right now, for every $100 of sales price, the seller pays 10 cents into the state tax, to the state treasury, 10 cents. The proposal last year was in Northern Virginia and Hampton Roads to increase that by 40 cents in Nova and Hampton Roads and have all that money go to transportation. My proposal is not to do that, 40 cents, it's to do it 25 cents and do it statewide and have all the money go into this Transportation Change Fund. Again, why the grantor's tax? Because the legislature last year put that in the bill and passed it on the theory that real estate transactions and the pace of real estate transactions are related to need for infrastructure. I propose 25 cents statewide. That would produce $140 million a year. And here's how I'd spend it. 75% would go to rail and public transit. And non-car modes such as carpooling, incentives for businesses to do ride-sharing programs, telework programs, anything that would reduce congestion. 75%. 25% would go into economic development. In rural Virginia, there's a transportation need, but it's not congestion. We want jobs. We want jobs. And if we could actually get some jobs, maybe even some jobs that might have gone to Northern Virginia, we can help with congestion there and help with economic development here. But to get jobs in Northern Virginia, you have to build transportation infrastructure. And so, just as an example, there's a big Gatorade plant, state-of-the-art, that just opened in Wytheville in Southwest Virginia. And we really worked to compete against other states to get that plant open. But to win it, we had to agree to do enhanced rail access and enhanced road access to get the plant there. Now, it was a good thing. It created economic opportunity in part of the state that needed it, but you had to have economic development investments to get it. So that would be the way I would do the Transportation Change Fund. 75% public transit and rail or these alternate modes, 25% economic development. And that's the way we do it. So those are the three pieces of the plan. Pretty straightforward. You'll see the next slide. If we did this change fund, we would dramatically increase the state's rail and public transit investments in a very significant way. And on the next slide, you'll see, I showed you a slide earlier that showed how basically if we don't do anything, the construction money just starts to really drop to 2019. If we do what I've proposed, the construction money actually gets to a healthy level and stays there. The maintenance number is still way up because it's a big system, costs a lot to maintain. But the construction money stays healthy in a way that can enable us to deal with some of our challenges. Let me show you real quick, I'm going to show you two last slides, and then conclude and open it up. What does this mean in Northern Virginia? If the legislature just said, okay, Governor, we're adopting your plan, or they adopt a plan that produces sort of the same amount of money, they could get there a different way. What would it mean in Northern Virginia? Let me show you this slide here. This slide is the Northern Virginia Transportation District we divide the state up into transportation districts, and this is the Northern Virginia district. Every dot on this slide was a project that was part of the 6-year plan until April. It was on the 6-year plan last year. When the CTB met in April, I showed you how they had to reduce all their numbers for the next 6 years because of a variety of things. The dots that are on this map that are in red are projects that were on the list before April that are now off the list. They're not on the 6-year plan. The dots that are in yellow were the projects that were on the list and are still on, but they're pushed off into later years. They're delayed. The dots in green, there are not many dots in green, were on the list, and they're still on the list, and they're still going to get done. So just in 1 year, the combined effect of federal funds coming down, the court action repealing the regional plans, etc., took the Northern Virginia plan. All these were green, before April, and now they're mostly red and yellow. Okay? If you adopt the plan that I propose, this is what it looks like. Now go back and forth just between a little bit. Okay? Okay, now keep it on the new one. Now, what you'll see, there's still some red dots on it. Because the federal gas tax monies are slowing down as gas prices go up, we're getting less gas tax revenue. So there are some projects that were on the list before that aren't going to come on the list even on the money plan. I saw this stat in the paper the other day that it kind of stunned me. In March of this year, Americans drove 11 billion fewer miles on the road than they did in March a year before because of gas prices. And so that means less gas tax revenue. So some of these dots are still red, but many of the red dots have changed to green, and all of the yellow dots have changed to green. If we do this plan that I proposed, or something like it, we can keep these projects moving forward and have enough money for public transit in red. I'll conclude and open it up. This plan is not perfect. In fact, I don't know that there is a perfect plan. Every plan is a choice, a set of choices, but there's a level of investment that we need, and you can get to it in different ways. I've tried to get to it in a way where I use revenue sources that the legislature has already been willing to vote for, so that they don't have to cast a new vote on something difficult or hard. They already said last year, there's a huge problem here, Governor. We got to do something about it. We're willing to vote to do it. Okay, great. Let's use the same revenue sources you just voted on. And that was the basic philosophy behind the plan I put together. But there are other ways to do this. And so what I said to the legislature when I rolled this thing out in May is, look, if you got a better plan, I want to hear it. Improve it, modify it, adjust it. Give me a better one. Now, so far, I think I'm about 4.5 weeks of counting since I rolled this thing out May 13. I've heard we don't like it. I haven't heard another plan. I will hear other plans. I think the legislature, each house is kind of working on what they like and what they don't like. But I think what I want to communicate to you, and what I hope you'll communicate to your legislators, is do whatever you can to improve it or modify or adjust it. Don't come home with nothing. This problem will get worse because we're going to continue to grow. This problem will get worse because the costs are going to continue to go up. And if you want the 2 weeks of vacation to be 3 weeks of vacation, or if we want the 1,026 traffic deaths to be 1,100 traffic deaths, or if we want bridges at average age 47 years to be 57 years, or the 1,700 structurally deficient to be 3,700 structurally deficient. That's what will happen if we don't do anything. So, action is important. It's never easy. If it were easy, this thing would have been solved a long time ago. I recognize it's challenging for all of us. But I do think part of what we do when you put us in these jobs is we have to be willing to look at ourselves in the mirror and say, we've been complaining and griping. Are we really willing to do what is needed to do to solve this? So, that's my pitch, and I'd love to now open it up, take questions, comments, etc. I'll probably do it for, 45 minutes or so, and I'm going to come right in front row.